Reggie Barlow, the new coach of Tennessee State. Did y'all know that the only insect that does not go backwards is the grasshopper? He said that today in the press conference that he wants Tennessee State to go forward like grasshoppers. So from this point forward, they're going to be known forever as the Tennessee State Grasshoppers.
The big blue grasshoppers.
The big blue grasshoppers. So welcome to the show, folks. We're coming to you on a Monday afternoon after a very busy week and weekend of college football. As I mentioned before, there's some football news with Tennessee State hiring a new football coach. A lot of basketball stuff. We're gonna get to it in the second segment of the show. We got the full crew here today. We got Jared Hoffman to keep his job because otherwise he would have quit on the spot if he hadn't done the show in the middle of the day. So we're happy he's here. That's Chris Stevens, who's remembering the great George Foreman and his grill. Cameron Sharp's here, who's wearing a Lakers shirt, despite the fact they got bludgeoned by Chicago Bulls over the weekend. And Jared Hoffman, fresh off the NCAA tournament, is with us.
Yep.
Here's our first topic of the day. We're going to get into the coach of the Grasshoppers, Reggie Barlow. Over the weekend, it was announced that he became the new coach of the Tennessee State Tigers. After early in the week, it was erroneously reported that Tennessee State had hired Jeff Fisher. That wasn't true. And embarrassing for everybody who reported that. But anyway, so he's the coach today of Tennessee State. Announced over the weekend, a shocking move because he was the coach of the DC Defenders of the UFL, and he resigned a week before the season started to come coach at Tennessee State, where he replaces Eddie George after 4 seasons. As we all know, Eddie George went on to coach at Bowling Green. So here's Reggie Barlow's resume. He has a black college background. He played football at Alabama State. Then he went to the league, was a 4th-round draft pick, played for the Jaguars, the Raiders, and the Buccaneers when they won the Super Bowl back in 2002. Then, after retiring, became a quarterbacks coach first for Alabama State as alma mater. He coached the late Tavares Jackson, ended up being drafted in the 2nd round by the Seahawks. Then took over as head coach, where he won at least a share of 3 SWAC championships at Alabama State. Then he moved on to the CIAA, where he led Virginia State to really good success, undefeated season in there. He was also named Coach of the Year, led him to the playoffs in 2017, I believe it was. Then after that, he became an XFL, UFL head coach for the DC Defenders. He was named Coach of the Year in 2023 and led them to the championship game. So, fellas, what do we make of Reggie Barlow becoming the next head coach of Tennessee State? Because we thought they were not going to go the black college football coach route. Technically, they really didn't do it because he was in the XFL. But what do we make of this move, starting with Kim Rashad?
Well, let me take the time right now to eat my words. Because if you guys recall, when we were considering possible replacements for the vacant Tennessee State job after Eddie George left, I think we had the discussion that we didn't think that Mickey Allen was going to hire a coach with HBCU ties or a coach that even attended an HBCU. At least I didn't think so. And I'm honestly of the belief that Dr. Mickey Allen listened to our podcast and made the decision and said, you know what? Screw you, Noob. I'm going to go ahead and hire another Noob. I'm going to hire Reggie Barlow. Yo to the good news, by the way. But no, I'm surprised that he made this hire. I can't sit up here and tell you that I thought he would do this, but hey, he did. And you can't necessarily argue with his resume. I mean, he's shown that he's worthy, and best of luck to him, and best of luck to Tennessee State going forward with the hire. But I eat my words. I didn't think he was going to hire anyone with HBCU ties.
Yeah, Chris, your thoughts about this? Actually, a lot of his staff, I heard today in a press conference for DC Defenders, actually had Tennessee State or Alabama State ties. So he's going to bring a lot of black college football flavor over to Tennessee State. So what do you make of Reggie Barlow being the coach and his prospects for trying to help them move forward after Eddie George?
You can't go wrong with a dude that has won at 2 levels. He's won at the FCS level, pardon me. He won at Division II. Well, actually, he won at the professional level too, because that year the DC he was named head coach of the year. The DC Defenders were a couple of possessions away from winning the last XFL championship. So Reggie Barlow can coach. That much we know for sure. He can coach at a college level. He can coach at a professional level. So the question is, will the folks respond? Will the folks in Nashville respond to Reggie Barlow the way they did to Eddie George? And it's not to say that Eddie George inspired like a grand increase in attendance or anything, because this is the same dude who was complaining about beer and wings and stuff. And I mean, I like Coach. I'm not gonna let that slide. We've talked to Coach George. I think he's a great human being, but that quote just irritated me to no end. And I mean, respectfully, you can't lose with a guy like Reggie Barlow. I mean, it's obvious that, and he's one of those guys that, yes, he played in the NFL, but he didn't skip the line like a Prime or a Mike Vick or a Deshaun Jackson. This is a dude who was a regular old wide receiver, a Super Bowl winning wide receiver, but a regular old receiver nonetheless. Went back, did quarterback coaching thing, became head coach, won at those levels, and you can't get much better than that. Like, if it wasn't Fred McNair, Reggie Barlow is definitely a great hire. And I think what's going to be key for him is, can he, like I said, if Eddie George could get in a kid's front door by name brand recognition, excuse me, and Reggie Barlow is going to have to do it the old-fashioned way, just by impressing upon a parent that Tennessee State is a place you want to be. Tennessee State is a place where your kid can win, and Tennessee State is a place where your kid can be seen. So that is what is going to be key moving forward. But I like this hire as well.
Do you agree, Jared? This might be the most perfect hire Tennessee State could have made.
Not only was it the perfect hire, but the fact that they did this on short notice, the fact that there wasn't much there was some indication that Eddie George could potentially get some offers elsewhere, but there was no real indication that he was going to leave. So the fact that they were probably thinking ahead when he got that interview with the Chicago Bears, and were probably putting together a list of potential candidates to replace him, when that went down, and that they were able to get the business right and get Reggie Barlow in the door, is an absolutely remarkable hire. You talked about, him being the quarterback's coach and mentoring Tavares Jackson, God rest his soul, who ended up becoming the last quarterback from an HBCU to be selected in an NFL draft. But what we don't talk about enough is the fact that he coached 2 running backs that ended up making it to the NFL. Isaiah Crowell from Alabama State and Trenton Cannon from Virginia State. So he has a history of coaching guys into being pro-level talent. And I think there's a lot of guys, should they remain at Tennessee State, that have that potential, that he has the ability to mold into being professional caliber players. So banger of a hire for Tennessee State. And I think that's going to I hope that it keeps the majority of those guys in the door. But if it doesn't, then I wouldn't be surprised to see some guys who are in the transfer portal right now, or who haven't signed yet, that could potentially follow his footsteps into Tennessee State. So incredible hire by Tennessee State.
Yeah, because right now, as you mentioned, Jared, the transfer portal, like 3 guys, prominent players on their team, hit the portal right after Eddie George decided to go to Bowling Green. So he's going to have to try to recruit them if he wants to, or try to get rid of them in the offseason, especially since spring practice is literally here today. But he was asked
about getting back Eric George. Brandon Fisher is there. That's the reason why he's at Bowling Green. Eric George.
And his dad too, obviously.
No, that has nothing to do with it. It has everything to do with Brandon Fisher. You think he wants to play for his dad? Are you kidding me?
He wouldn't be the first black college football player to transfer from the school because his dad went somewhere else.
Man, Shador Sanders did not go to Colorado because of his dad. He did it because he loves the city of Boulder. There's so much to do in Boulder, Colorado. Are you kidding? You think Shiloh?
There's no crime there.
You think Shiloh wanted to leave the Jackson State band. He wanted to be the drum major.
He really didn't want to leave. Now, there may be an element of truth to that. he got his degree from Jackson State
right now. You think I'm being sarcastic right now? Shiloh did not want to leave. I'm completely joking, obviously.
So, Reggie Barlow was asked today, why would he leave the DC Defenders to go to Tennessee State? And here is what he said. I'm gonna do this live. I'm gonna share my screen. I'm sure everybody can see it. Here we go. This is what he said about that move.
Being in a professional level the last couple of years, what was so exciting about the opportunity to get back into college football, particularly at an HBCU?
Yeah, I appreciate that question, Steve. Obviously, we're blessed to be there with the UFL and the DC Defenders. But the Spring League offers its own challenges, and I really wanted to be on, or we wanted to be on a cycle of fall football. And we had other opportunities that have come up in the past, but nothing as good as Tennessee State. It's the leadership here. It's the OVC. It's being in the city of Nashville. It's being under the leadership of Dr. Allen. So all of those things were extremely important. And then just doing the research and knowing the history and tradition of Tennessee University, they were all attractive things. So we were giddy, excited to have the opportunity. So that had a lot to do with it. We enjoyed our time there with the DC Defenders. We learned a lot. We're able to help a lot of guys, but just the attraction of being here in Nashville, being at Tennessee State, being able to play in this stadium, and then all the things that we got on campus. So all that made the decision for us.
Yeah, so he pretty much said he wanted to play fall football again, which to me is kind of a damning statement if you're the UFL, because you're losing one of your really good coaches to not only college but the FCS. I don't know how much The Rock follows Black college football. He's gonna be happy about this. It kind of like compromises the value of the league when you lose a coach like that. But like those are his reasons for leaving. We can only respect him for it, but Tennessee State made a home run hire here. So what do you make of him just saying like he left because he wanted to pretty much, play fall football and get back in the college game, Chris Stevens?
Well, the final boss is going to have to, make a visit to Nashville and bring John Cena with him if that's the case. But all kidding aside, I don't think it's a damning indictment on the UFL. I just think that's where Reggie Barlow wants to be. How many times have we taken jobs in our lives because it was just a better fit for us? It's not every. You don't get into something and say, okay, we're past the point of everything being linear now, where it's like, okay, you spend 25, 30 years at a job, they give you a gold watch, and you collect your benefits until you keel over. That's not the world we live in anymore. You got to, go wherever your best fit is for as long as you are a working human being. And for Reggie Barlow, it just felt like fall football and HBCU football is where it's at for him. And you can't knock him for that. But it just says a lot that this is a guy who's, true to it. He's an Alabama State alum. He's an Alabama State coach. He's a Virginia State coach. And now he's a Tennessee State coach. He's going to hit every state before his time is up. You never know. Maybe he'll come to Delaware State at some point. I don't know. But, he's definitely an HBCU guy. So you can't knock him for that. And I feel like that's commendable considering what we're seeing with kids hitting the portal and coaches leaving, that this is a guy that wants to be in the space, that wants to contribute something positive to the space. So I feel like that's not an indictment on the UFL. I think that just says a lot more about the character of Reggie Barlow and how he feels about HBCUs.
Yeah, I don't think it's an indictment at all on the is it UFL, FXL, XFL? What isn't it UFL? Aren't they United Nations? UFL.
Yes, the UFL. Yeah.
So all you got to do is, I think, put it in proper perspective, because I think even The Rock himself knows that the UFL kind of serves, for all intents and purposes, kind of like a training, kind of like a, what's the term? What was like a spring league, not a spring league, but
like a feeder league.
It's the G League. It's the G League of the
NFL,
basically.
And these are like players who aren't bad, or they weren't bad collegiate players, and maybe they're missing something that is preventing them from making it to the next level. And it isn't anything that isn't that's dire. It's probably something that's coachable, and all they got to do is just improve on it to the point to where if they improve on it in the UFL, chances are someone may see value in what they do to where they can eventually be called up to the NFL. I don't think it's any different for coaches. And I will simply say this. For a person like Reggie Barlow, who was at Alabama State and who transitioned to Virginia State, played, coaching at Division II level, but was able to find an opportunity with the UFL to put it in a position to get a D1 coaching opportunity at Tennessee State, I think in and of itself shows the value of the UFL. So I don't necessarily view it as a bad thing at all. I think it actually shows just how beneficial the UFL is and can be, whether it be a player or a coach hoping or looking for an opportunity to coach or to play during the traditional fall season of what we typically accustom football to be. So I say kudos to the UFL. I don't necessarily think that it's a bad thing. I don't think it's a knock against the UFL. I think that it's actually something that whether you're a coach or whether you're a player, I think it's just simply an opportunity to leverage to put you in a better position to be in a more traditional foundation, whether it be college football, whether it be NFL. But I'm all for it. I don't think it's a knock against the UFL at all. If anything, it probably validates why the UFL should probably stick around.
And kudos to the DC Defenders because they've been very supportive of Reggie Barlow since he was hired by Tennessee State. So I don't think that there's going to be any sour grapes. I don't think that this is going to be something where you need to call a board meeting and try to iron anything. I don't feel like this is that big of a deal, quite honestly. The UFL is up against it no matter what. If they stay in the spring, they're going to have to compete with with March Madness, the Final Four, because that's the week that it starts. If they go in the fall, they're competing with the NFL, and that would be idiotic to do. Like there's no movement for them. I think they're comfortable where they're at. I think they have their fan base. I think they're happy with their fan base. If they start to lose money, then I think maybe some things will have to change in terms of how they market the league. I think that's the biggest problem. I think the marketing of the league could be a bit better because I don't see much about promotion for the league. Like the season starts on the 28th, and I haven't seen anything promoting the start of the season in the UFL or anything like that. But there's a lot of talented guys on these rosters that get NFL opportunities when the season is over. So I think there needs to be more promotion for the league, but I don't think where the season is happening, when the season is happening, I don't think that's a problem at all.
I know we got to move on, but let me just simply say this. I do recall something that The Rock mentioned again when he explained the role of the UFL. And I'm of the belief, and I think if I'm not mistaken, I think he said he even wanted to, or he was in the process of having conversations with the NFL and owners and so forth, because of the role that the UFL could play to the greater purpose of the NFL. It wasn't meant, or at least from his position, it was never meant to be a competitor against the NFL. And I think if The Rock had his way, I think he's saying, look, you might want to kick us a few dollars just to kind of keep our doors open so that we can serve kind of like in the training capacity for those players who might be just, at that point to where they're just they fall short of just some fundamentals that can be coachable, that they need a little more time to improve upon so that when they make that NFL roster, they're good to go. So, I think it's just simply a matter of what type of arrangements the UFL can make, whether it be on the record or behind closed doors, to where they can continue to serve in the purpose that they're currently serving, and it still be a benefit to the NFL. Because they're certainly not operating as a competitor.
Right. Yeah, that was the goal all along. But I think a lot of players and coaches, to some degree, aspire to go to the NFL. So that's kind of one of the goals of the league too, is trying to make those dreams in that way come true. Speaking of making moves, Larry Vickers, 40 hours ago, he was the coach of Norfolk State basketball, and now he's got to say War Eagle. He is the new head coach for the women's basketball team in Auburn. that was made official on yesterday. That came literally hours after Norfolk State lost in the round of 64 to Maryland on Saturday, in a game they probably should have won. Of all the games that our teams normally lose in the tournament, being the higher seed, and we always say, well, no, good job, good effort. Y'all really hung in there. This one, I didn't feel that way. I felt like because of the talent they had on the team, that Maryland was not better than Norfolk State. I know the scoreboard said that at the end of the game, but I felt like that was a winnable game at the end of the day. And I was kind of disappointed that like Norfolk State lost because they played a really good first half. Jared Hoffman was there. He covered the game for us on Saturday on site. But yeah, the outcome of that game was disappointing to me in a lot of ways, but because of that reality. But what do we make of Larry Vickers deciding to make the move to the SEC, starting with Jared Hoffman?
Well, just to talk a little bit about the game, you're absolutely right. Norfolk State was absolutely in that game. You know, and we talked about it during the press conference that HBCU basketball used to be in a place where when our teams went to the tournament, we just prayed that they kept the game close. And Larry Vickers with Norfolk State and Tamika Reed with Jackson State, now she's at Charlotte, they really changed the culture of HBCU basketball to where we go into those games and we actually genuinely think that we can win those games. I genuinely thought going into that game that Norfolk State had a chance to win, even though Maryland is one of the highest scoring teams in the country. And I still thought that Norfolk State had a chance to win, but Maryland, they shot the lights out. Norfolk State fouled shooters entirely too much, and we really beat ourselves. If those fouls don't happen, we have a chance to win because they were playing incredible defense, and Diamond Johnson better be in the WNBA by May. She better be on a WNBA roster come May. I'm not kidding about that. She is a pit bull, and I don't care how undersized she is a WNBA player. Now, to Larry Vickers going to Auburn, let me just say that everybody that was in that press conference was absolutely shocked when we saw the news. You know that meme where we were all just like, pretends to be shocked. That was us when he said he don't know what he doing next. We all know he wasn't going nowhere.
Hey, let me stop you. Let me tell you how he said. He said, "I don't know what I'm doing next." That's what he said. But anyway, go ahead.
He just didn't want to talk about it, and that's fine. But we all knew that man wasn't coming back, and he deservedly so. He deserves this opportunity. I absolutely believe that he will be successful in this role. And I want to address this. There was somebody on social media who called this move risky by Auburn. And I think the point that he was trying to make, that they were going for a proven guy at the Power 4 level. Now, look, I get it. Larry Vickers has only coached at Norfolk State. He doesn't have the acumen of someone like a Kim Mulkey, like a Don Staley. But if you saw what he did rebuilding that Norfolk State team, you would know that there is no risk behind Auburn hiring him. I don't view this as a risky move at all. Obviously, I'm biased, having covered the man and watched the work that he's done over the past couple of years. But this is a great move for him, and I wish him all the success. But to be serious, nobody was surprised that man is gone.
Yeah, Cameron, sorry, you got some thoughts on this. What do you make of Larry Vickers' move and the way he kind of moved to Auburn?
Well, I guess no one is surprised by the hire. I'm just wondering, because the game was played in College Park, right?
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, did he go home with the team, or because I'm guessing Norfolk State or the administration, they had to have known And I guess I'm wondering when did his players know? I'm sure someone knew this because the next day, correct me if I'm wrong, it was the next day that the announcement came out that he was hired at Auburn. And I'm looking at the photo that Auburn had. I'm like, is that him in an Auburn shirt or is that Photoshop? I'm like, because damn, he got there quick. I'm like, I think that was really him. Okay, did he even go back to Norfolk? Did he go back to Norfolk or did he leave College Park and he went down to Auburn? I'm like, what? I'm like, or is that Photoshop? I was like, damn, that's quick. But hey, man, I'm not surprised. I'm happy for him. We always have these conversations. And we've had the conversations, whether it be coaches at the NFL, HBCU coaches that coach football, or coaches who coach basketball. We've always had these conversations about how some of these coaches deserve to be looked at for jobs at the Power 4, Power 5, or NFL, whatever, at the Power 4, Power 5 level. It finally happened, or it's happened to Coach Vickers. And for anyone who would have doubts and say that it's risky, I would just simply say any coach, regardless of where that person comes from, is considered a risky hire. Hell, Nick Saban left LSU, went to Miami. We saw how that turned out.
Still hate him to this day.
So, and he went back to the college ranks. Who else? Steve Spurrier, left Florida, went to the Washington Redskins. We saw how that turned out. So
people of a certain age will remember Pete Carroll back in the 90s.
Any hire, regardless of what the experience of a coach is, any hire is considered risky because just because it worked out for a coach at one particular location doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work out the same at the different, because it's a different location. It's a different culture. It's a different atmosphere. And so, look, man, we can only wait and see what happens. But I for one am one who hope he does well. And depending on how well it goes, hell, he may end up leaving Auburn and going someplace else.
Chris Stevens, your thoughts on this? Because I couldn't help but think about Will Wade, formerly of LSU, got fired because of recruiting violations, resurfaced again, and now it's taking another Power 4 job. And it was announced during the tournament this was going to happen. Everybody knew what was going on. So what do you make of how the situation kind of all played out? I think Xfinity got
Chris,
him.
Did you freeze up?
I think Xfinity got him. He's speechless. Look at him.
Man, Xfinity have been doing good recently.
I know.
He'll be back.
Man. Like Chris did say, for the show start, he moved to a new location in his place. So that could have been it. It's crazy. So our next topic, we're gonna let Chris get himself together and then bring him back on. Another basketball coach, also Norfolk State, Robert Jones, he was not upset. I mean, he was upset with the committee, particularly before the tournament started, seeding them number 16 and then playing against Florida. He was upset with the spread of them being 20.5-point underdogs. Then after they had lost to Florida, he was still upset that they even had to play Florida to begin with. And this is what he said.
People are going to say that we lost by 26. Yeah, I do. Yeah, so, yeah. I mean, most of the 6 teams have lost by 26. So that could have been anybody in the country that lost by 26. But we shouldn't have been on that line. If you look at it, like I say it once again, and maybe it'll stick home this time, is that out of all the 15s and 16s, we were the only one with a top 100 win. We beat High Point at their place. We was the only, loss for them. We beat Alabama State. We beat James Madison, who won their league. It's like a whole bunch of stuff that you could run down. We played Tennessee close as hell, so it's credit to Florida, they're a great team, but we shouldn't have played Florida. We should have played, somebody else. So, and I stand by that to the death. So as far as moving the needle to the 15, it should have been moved already. But it seems like every time it moves, the goalpost gets a little further.
Let's go.
Yeah, so he says he's going to take this to the grave with him. They should not play Florida, who's obviously one of the 4 number 1 seeds in the tournament. But the question for me is, if y'all didn't want to play Florida, who did y'all want to play? I mean, you're in the tournament, you're in the national tournament. Like all the teams in the tournament are good to varying degrees. And so, in order to win the tournament, you're gonna have to run into one of these really good teams, either in the first round or later on in the tournament. So it's hard to like avoid this situation. I mean, like I don't get coaches complaining about seeding in the tournament teams in it. Either I heard Don Staley, I love her as a coach, man, but like she complained about not being number one overall seed. I'm like, okay, you're 30-3. Like, why are you complaining about being the number two overall seed or whatever it is? And you got Robert Jones complaining about being the 16th seed and how to play Florida. I'm like, if you're going to be in a tournament, you're going to play one of these teams eventually. But Chris Stevens, your thoughts on this, man? How that thing's working?
Yeah, I really wanted to say something about Larry Vickers, but that's okay.
No, go ahead. Go ahead if you want. Go ahead. Take a moment. Take a moment if you want to say something.
Well, let me get. Yeah, I'm gonna do two things with one stone. Yeah, we knew he was leaving. I mean, it's disappointing because he built such a strong thing at Norfolk State with Diamond and Mimi and all those girls. But hopefully they can find a replacement for him. But I hope he's successful. I mean, I think they beat Auburn this year, so I guarantee you that Auburn AD was looking at that and said, "We probably need to look at this guy." So be careful when you take these Power 5 guarantee games, because if you beat somebody, you never know. You might lose your coach. But as far as what Robert Jones is saying, I mean, I respect that dude. I mean, this is a dude who told that little small time coach at Illinois State where he could go and how he could get there. Like I immediately wanted. I can't play basketball, but I wanted to play for Robert Jones after he said that. However, there are no off days in the NCAA tournament. There's no off days if you're playing Florida. There's no off days if you're playing Gonzaga. There's no off days if you're playing
St. Mary's, for crying out loud.
Exactly. I mean, it's the NCAA tournament. It is the best of the best. The field of 64 or 68, however you want to slice it. These are the best teams that got in. Everybody's going to be a tough out. So, I mean, I get why he's sticking up for his team, but I mean, we've already talked about the quad 1, quad 2, quad 3, quad 4 stuff. You just got to take this one on the chin. And unfortunately, that's what Norfolk State did. You can't start slow against teams like Florida, and that's what hurt them. But overall, I mean, I get why he's defending his guys and defending his team, but you got to win the games, man. You got to play the games and you got to win them, and that's pretty much what it boils down to.
Yeah, pretty much. And shout out to our Twitter follower at Mike Check BB B-Side. He did a lot of the work for us. He actually found the net rankings for all the 15 seeds in this year's tournament. And you see where Norfolk State is relative to Wofford, Robert Morris, Bryant, and Omaha. Now, all those teams above Norfolk State were seeded the 15 seed. Norfolk State was the 16 seed. Norfolk State actually had the best net rating of all the 16 seeds. So they were actually, according to various metrics and measurements, probably were seeded correctly in the tournament, despite the fact that we can obviously dock the select community for some of their questionable choices in terms of seeding, who gets placed where, or whether teams deserve to make a tournament or not. But in this case, based on Norfolk State's schedule, combined with the conference they play in, which was not very good in non-conference play, they probably were seeded as they should have been. Maybe they could have played a different number one seed. Maybe Jones has an argument in that regard, but like a different number one seed probably wouldn't have made no difference. All the teams they played, Duke, I don't want to play Cooper Flag and Duke right now. They're rolling through the tournament. Do you want to play Auburn? They just dismantled Alabama State, despite the fact Alabama State played a really good half against them on Friday. So yeah, it'll be a tough road nonetheless. So our solution has always been like your conference has to be better overall for your entire conference champion to get a better seed. Like the women's did. The women's team got a 13 seed because they're not only good, they beat 2 SEC schools and they went undefeated in their conference and they got a 13 seed. That's got to kind of be the formula for Norfolk State and any other Black college team or conference that wants to get higher than the 16 seed. But Jared, your thoughts on this?
All due respect to Robert Jones. You are an incredible coach. But why? Why say this? Why continue this? I get it. You want to stand on your principles that your team is better than a 16 seed. I get it. But if they were that good, they would have had to face Florida anyway. You would have had to have faced Florida anyway. And as you said, what you want to play Auburn? You want to play a Duke? If you were a 15 seed, what you want to play Alabama? You want to play St. John's?
Probably could have beat St. John's though. They can't shoot.
And it only would have taken 15 seconds.
Come on, Chris. That's not right, man. That's not right, man. You can't be saying that, man. They got young people watching this.
Wow.
If they get the joke, I apologize. But the adults that know.
I was gonna say Rick Pitino lasted longer in the tournament than he did in those 15 seconds. But hey.
Anyway.
All right, let's move on.
Y'all are too much. I don't think this does anything for you complaining about getting a 16 seed. It doesn't. It really doesn't. Because if you look at your record compared to their records, I get it. You beat High Point, who is in the tournament, I believe. You beat James Madison, who won their conference. I don't know why you brought up playing Tennessee close, because that's nothing to brag about, quite honestly. It was a regular season game, and a lot of times you play those Power 4 teams close because they sleep on you.
And Rick Barnes is a terrible coach anyway, so I mean, I don't think they're going to go any further. So
yeah, I'm not sure why you would brag about that. You could have just stuck to the games you won. I'm not sure. Yeah. Bragging about losing the game close is, as a championship coach, I don't know why he felt the need to do that. But yeah, this isn't doing anything to help your case at all. Just go to work in the off season, recruit the best roster that you possibly can going forward, and get out there and schedule and have your guys ready to play when they step on the floor next fall or next winter. That's all you can do. There's no reason to continue to harp on this. You're home now. And there's 32 other teams that are home now too. No, wait, not 32.
48.
48, yeah.
48 other teams that are home now too. So it's nothing to keep harping on. There's only one champion at the end of the day. That's all that matters at the end of the day. So I'm pretty sure those other teams probably think that they should have been higher seeds than what they are too. So
all I'm gonna say is this: Robert Jones, for all intents and purposes, is no different than any other coach we've seen or heard from during this tournament. I mean, he doesn't top Dan Hurley. Dan Hurley went out guns blazing. This is a man who once told an official, according to sources and reports, "Don't turn your back on me." Something like I'm one of the greatest coaches this game has ever seen, or something along those lines. And so, as they're exiting the court after losing to, who did they lose to?
Florida.
Who did UConn lose?
They lost to Florida.
They lost to Florida. And I think Baylor was entering the court, and he was like, let the referees do what they did to us," or something along those lines. I mean, I'm like, that's it's who he is.
He said, "I hope they don't F you."
Right. So, and I'm not necessarily trying to compare Robert Jones to Dan Hurley, but I guess my point is that this is not the first time that we've heard coaches going to bat either for their programs or for their teams, even though the data may indicate that they are completely wrong or just a tad bit off base in terms of what they're doing. So I don't really hold it against them, but I will just simply say the 16th seed was justified. It might have even been to your advantage if you had an opportunity to play in the play-in game, because if you actually won, you could have actually earned a unit, gotten some money. Alabama State won that play-in game, estimated $2.1 million now going to the SWAC by Alabama State for a period over a period of 6 years. So, this is all about the money, and I'll just leave it at that because I know we got to move on.
You know how bad, you know how much of a clown you have to be to make Gino Auriemma look normal? Dan
That's
Hurley,
a-
I don't know how he keeps his job is a mystery to me. But anyway, let's
Right.
move on.
Exactly. Yeah. Great point, though.
But hey, another thing that happened because of clowns, John Calipari is a Cinderella now.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Don't call
Yeah.
them a Cinderella.
They're a Cinderella.
They are not a
Defied all the
Cinderella.
odds.
That is not a Cinderella. Stop it.
Well, there were real Cinderellas in the tournament, and they were close to home.
Yes.
There was a lot of black college basketball success in either the NCAA tournament or the NIT, at least on the women's side. You had Alabama State win in dramatic fashion last Tuesday. You had Southern women win their first 4 game. And then in the WNIT, you had Coppin State win. You had Texas Southern win. You had Howard win. So yeah, a bunch of black college basketball teams did good. Also, shout out to Johnson C. Smith women for winning the inaugural Black College Invitational Championship. It was played right here in Charlotte, North Carolina over the weekend. It was a tournament for D2 schools. So they won that. So a lot of good basketball was played this weekend. Normally at this point of the season, like we're not talking about any more basketball because like all teams have been eliminated. But there are teams who will still be playing basketball games for at least one more week. So what do we make of this success? So like we embrace, winning these first 4 games. So we embrace being competitive in the NIT. No men made the NIT on their side, but the women have certainly shown out on their end. But how should we kind of characterize what transpired this weekend? Start with Kim Shad.
The transfer portal giveth, and the transfer portal taketh away. And I think what we're seeing right now, because of the transfer portal, I think we're finally gotten to the point to where I think to the benefit and to the credit of the student athletes who enter the transfer portal, regardless of what their reasons are for entering the transfer portal, I think it's safe to say that more likely than not, most of them are just simply saying, look, I just want to play. Maybe they decide to enter the portal because the program that they were with, maybe it wasn't a fit. Maybe they felt that they should have gotten a little bit more time, whatever the case may be. But I'm of the belief, and I have absolutely no data to back this up, but I'm of the belief that some of these players just say, look, I want to play Division I ball. I think I'm capable of playing more than I have been playing at this particular program. I'm going to enter the transfer portal, and I'm going to go someplace Division I where I can play. Or in some cases, I just want to go and play because I love the game that much. And so now, with this newfound awareness of HBCUs and so forth, and now you've got student athletes that say, hey, you know what? Some of these HBCUs play on Division I. They're small, but look, they play Division I schools. Look at the schedules. And they go to the tournament too. And now I get to go to an HBCU. And so now you see these student athletes being a little bit more open-minded now, to where now it's not so bad as folks, NIL money being what it is. But the bottom line is for those kids who just simply want to play and they're probably looking forward to that that cultural experience at an HBCU, this is an opportunity. And as a result, we see what the teams, the program that these coaches are now the extra talent. And that the result of these teams now going into postseason play and actually winning these games. They're not just one and done like they used to be. They're actually moving deep into these tournaments, WNIT and so forth. So I think it's in large part due to the transfer portal.
Yeah, I was watching the various talking head shows this morning, and they were lamenting the fact that there's no Cinderella teams left in the tournament, save for John Calipari's Fighting Hogs. And they say part of the reason why is because the transfer portal has allowed these kids from maybe some mid-majors or Division II to come up and play their final seasons at the Power 4 level. Chris, you think like the transfer portal could work in such a way where more teams like Alabama State will have a chance, to make runs in the tournament, or are we going to risk on the other end, like a Blake Harper, for example, enter the transfer portal from Howard, moving on?
I think it's 50-50. I mean, we're going to see kids like Blake Harper leave, but then we're going to get kids like Diamond Johnson that come in. That's just the way that's just the way the ebb and flow of this new, as Mr. Williams in our chat called it, free agency for underclassmen. Kids have options now. And I mean, there's no, again, like I said at the beginning of this program, it's no different than anybody else looking for a job anywhere else. If you are looking to improve your situation financially, whether it's just a work environment, you're going to look for the best possible opportunity. And if it becomes available, you take it. And I think that's what's going to happen with the portal. And granted, I think the days of kids, programs being built from the ground up, when you have guys and girls recruiting from different areas and bringing all these kids together, and they all just sort of coalesce into this dynasty, those days are over. You're going to get kids that are going to major school and say, oh, this kid, he transferred from mid-major X, or he wasn't getting, he was languishing on the bench at Power 4 Z or something like that. It's just not going to be a case of, like I said, nothing's linear anymore. There's nothing in a straight line. There's nothing black and white. There's just going to be a lot of kids moving around, coaches moving around, and everyone is just going to have to adjust to it. So it's going to be difficult, because if you lose a Blake Harper, like Howard is on the verge of doing, you have to hope they can bring in somebody comparable to him. But at the same time, you have someone like Diamond Johnson, who said she wanted to go to an HBCU and said that HBCUs, are important. Like, this is a girl who played at Rutgers and North Carolina State. So she's seen the best of the best. And so, like Jared said, we need to raise a riot if she's not in the WNBA this summer. Like, I compare her to Odyssey Sims. She's about the same size, probably a better point guard than Odyssey Sims, but about the same in terms of offense. So a WNBA team can absolutely use Diamond Johnson. How cool would that be for her to be introduced as Diamond Johnson from Norfolk State? So, there's a lot to like about, there's a lot to hate about the portal, but there's a lot to be confident and encouraged about as well.
Yeah, great point by Charles Bishop bringing up coaches, because it's harder to recruit now than it's ever been before because of the portal, because of NIL, and have a guy like Tony Matlock, who took over a team that hadn't won very much, and to make them winners was amazing. The job that Vernet Skeet's doing now in Texas Southern has been wonderful. So yeah, a lot of coaches have really toiled to get in this position. So I'm hoping that in the next few years we're going to see more good stories like this. Jay Hoffman, last word on this topic.
Yeah, and I just think that one thing that we mentioned was the portal giveth and the portal taketh away. But a lot of times for the players, there's a risk of the portal giveth and the portal taketh away. For every Elijah Hawkins who is on Texas Tech right now and his team is in the Sweet 16, you have a Ken Evans who transferred to Florida Atlantic and they missed the tournament. So it's not just the portal giveth and portal taketh away for these teams. It's portal giveth and portal taketh away for these players. And it's the same thing for the players that we get. For every Diamond Johnson, there is a player that sits at the end of the bench that I didn't want to bring up anybody, because I know that there are examples, but I don't want to put anybody's name out there. But there have been transfers who have come in and it was supposed to be the next big thing for their programs that didn't turn out to be that. So, well, I'll say a name, Maury Davenport. It's not because of her skill level. It's just because she couldn't stay healthy. If she was able to be healthy, she probably could have made a difference, but it's a calculated risk when you recruit through the portal or when you maneuver through the portal. So as far as the postseason success that we've had, it's great to see. And I hope that it's a testament that you can succeed anywhere if you put your mind to it, if you have the right coaching in place, and if you have the right attitude. So I love the trend, but we have to want more. We have to want to see more teams. We've already had teams make it to the round of 32 on the men's side. It's time to push for us to make to the Sweet 16. We haven't seen a women's team, an HBCU women's team, make it to the round of 32 since the tournament expanded to 64 teams. So we have to push for our women to win a game in the round of 64. We have to, as results change, expectations have to change. And I love the success that we're having, but we have to want more for our programs.
So, since our fearless leader decided to leave and put the give me the keys to the Lamborghini. Chris, you got any closing thoughts on this?
No, I think we've covered everything from that in that regard.
Okay. So with that said, Chris, do that thing that you do.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for watching this edition of HBCU Sports Live. We appreciate your time as always, especially y'all that have been just absolutely bananas in the chat. On a Monday, you're probably a little antsy at work, and we appreciate you for taking the time out. Be sure to follow us. Be sure to subscribe to this channel, become a level 1 or level 2 member for $4.99 a month. You can get all the Black college sports information that is fit to print and broadcast, as we like to give you. Be sure to follow us on all manners of social media. We are on Facebook. We're on TikTok. We're on Threads. We're on Instagram. We're on the Musty app. We're on Blue Sky. Be sure to join us there. And don't forget to donate, too. Donate at hbcusports.com on the Zelle app, or go to the website, hbcusports.com/donate, and subscribe to our newsletter. You get all the information in your email box every day. And if you're feeling lucky, and if Ken Rashad is feeling good, he might comp you a t-shirt. I'm not saying he's going to, but one day Ken might wake up and say, you know what? I appreciate this person for subscribing to the newsletter. Let me get their shirt size. It might be you. You never know. So, but we thank y'all for tuning in. We're going to keep giving you guys the goods as we always do. And we thank you for tuning in.